Hey, welcome back, knife nerds and everyday care people. It's the Big Canucker here, and I have got something today that is a knife that I have been after for quite some time. Now, I almost scratched that itch with the Delica and I think the Hat 40 steel, Warncliffe, but I've always wanted to put a Delica in my collection, and I happened to get one. Ta-da! She's actually a Delica 4 with a stainless steel. And what an awesome little blade. Now, I just picked it up last night, and I ended up getting a really, really smoking deal because it's got some issues with it. And that's what the video here is about today. I'm not going to really do a review on this because I haven't carried it at all. Just kind of got it last night, went on a little trip, and picked one up. But really, really inexpensive. And a big part of the reason why is because it was this fella's, Chris, by the way, in Calgary. Thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate it so much that you let this go. Anyways, it was his everyday carry for quite some time, and the blade has got some issues here. So you can see, I'm not sure if you can see, but there is some series of chips along the edge here. And I want to do the kind of the other camera. I'll see if I can get that more in view. See if you can see the chips. Can you see the chips there at the very end? And the fact that the tip is not really super pointy anymore. I think what we're going to do is we're going to take these chips out, and then we're going to kind of form this tip and get it nice and pointy again. And I thought I would do that by hand. Now, of course, I mean, there's some other issues with this knife here too as well. And I'm not sure if you can see, but it's got some, it looks like here, some area here where you've got the saber grind is kind of ambiguous because there's some damage to the here. It looks like somebody had maybe taken this knife and put it against like a positive post on the battery, and it gave a little bit of a zzz, and it kind of etched it in there quite a bit, and then you try to smooth it out, and in the process they really kind of left that saber grind as kind of ambiguous, which is not the end of the world. I mean, hey, these knives here are working knives. Unfortunately, this one here has got VG10, not my favorite steel, so it will be kind of easy to sharpen by hand and get this tip kind of reformed. Now, I think the absolute easiest way to redo this bevel, get these chips out, and reform the tip is if you had some sort of mechanical means. So now I've got a Craftsman. It's a wet wheeled sharpener. It's very similar to a Tormek. That would take, I would have the bevel, the chips out of here, and the bevel redone, and this tip formed in probably about 5 minutes. Just super fast. Once you got it set up, the electrical means will do this really, really quick. Where I'm going to take it now and just try it by hand, because lots of us have got sharpening stones, and I think if you're going to do it, you might as well do it by hand, and that way everybody can get the chips out of their knives, and they can also reform the tip. So let's head to the workbench. Holy cow, do I ever look stoned? I'm actually kind of tired right now. It was a long trip. I ended up driving to Edmonton and back yesterday, and it was a long trip. And man, behind the wheel, I just don't have it like I used to. I mean, I used to be able to drive for days and days and days. Not anymore. All right, let's head to the old tabletop tickle trunk and check out the sharpening. Okay. So what I'm actually going to sharpen here is just an old stone. This is part of my philosophy, I think, in sharpening is your real heavy grits. I don't think you need to spend really monster big bucks on there, because with your heavy grits, at least unless it's the diamond ones, but you end up doing a lot of dishing out of your heavy grit stones, because they seem to be the ones that you're doing the most kind of grinding and shaping with, and they are going to be the ones that will take a beating. So I end up doing a lot of my really, really coarse grits in just a cheap, this is a cheap $12 Canadian Tire stone. I've got 1,000 grit here. Then, of course, I've got some really, my ceramic stones here. And I don't think I'm going to take this right up to the super extra fine mirrored edge here by hand. I think I'm going to just show you guys on up to 1,000 grit and getting this tip straightened out. And here, of course, is some other things too, because you've got these three different work sharp ceramic, and that's kind of just for the scallops here. I've also got another little tool here, a little hand tool that can do with for the fine scallops, and they are, I mean, they've looks like they've cut a few things. They are sharper than the regular blade here, because you know, Spyderco, the Spidey edge is a tremendous edge, and it will last a long time without sharpening, even on something like the VG10. So we'll see if we can, perhaps I might not do it under camera. We'll see what kind of time we have here, and we'll get these this tip reformed, and we'll get these chips out, and we'll see if we can see those chips here. There. Can you see those chips there? Yeah, you can see them here now quite a lot better. So that's what we're trying to get out here. And we're trying to reform this tip a little bit too as well. So, this is, where is my water? Oh, there we go. Yeah, just a little bit of soapy water on my stone, and you'll see it'll soak in right away. And that's why I've got this on here, because I don't like using oil on my stones, even if they're oil stones. I don't know, they just seem to be a whole lot messier. Maybe they do, you know, a really good job, but as far as I'm concerned, oil just seems to be real messy. Where water, a little bit of soapy water, if it gets somewhere, you know, just wipes off. Where oil will kind of maybe stain some things. And really quick here, what I ended up doing here is buying a inexpensive magic eraser. And of course, this is at the dollar store. This is a no-name brand. I would recommend actually getting the name brand magic erasers. And they seem to do a really good job tidying up my stones and my ceramic here. They've just done a really good job. So you can see here, just a little bit of water on the ceramic stone, and you can see what's pulled off the ceramic stone. But this here, it's almost like it's melting. It's so cheap. The no-name brand ones. Don't be like me and be super cheap. Get the name brand ones, and it'll clean up your ceramics, especially your ceramic here, really quick. You can see how these are now white. So just a little tip there for you as well. Okay, so let's get this a little bit more wet. And let's see what we can do here. So the tip here is now you can do this a couple of different ways. This getting the chips out. You can just basically kind of try to grind it back here. Let's see if I can get something a little smaller, just to point out. So now, because there is chips there, I mean, I don't want to take the entire edge. Now, if this Spidey edge wasn't there, you don't want to take this entire edge and just keep on grinding down and down and down and down. What you kind of want to do is you kind of want to maybe take this edge here where the chips are and grind it until your chips are out there, and it'll create a little bit of a wonk in there. But then what you want to do is you want to kind of blend that in like that. So if you just kind of blend that in from there, and if this wasn't there, if this wasn't here, you'd kind of leave that flat. And so overall, you've changed the shape of your blade just a smidge, but you don't waste all that steel along the entire edge. You've just basically taken it and you've just kind of ground it in. So that's what we're going to attempt to do here today. And sometimes you can do it like this. This kind of hurts my heart here, guys. Here, right along the side, we'll do it. Don't want to score the face up as much as... There we go. Until... There, look at that. Yeah, see, I can't feel the chips anymore. Chips are gone just from that. And that might be just a VG10. And so now what we want to do here is we want to kind of reform that edge just a little bit to make it a little more pointy. And so what we're going to do with that is we're just going to grind just along the spine a little bit. All right, just along the spine. there we go. As you can see, I just took it ever so slightly of an edge here. This edge wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but we'll end up using the this here just to kind of get that a little bit more in line with everything else. There. Now can you see how we've now all of a sudden we've got our tip right back? So now what we need to do now is we've ground away the chip, so let's even this bevel out. And we'll start off with this little Canadian Tire $12 stone. And I have to tell you that sharpening is something that takes a long time to learn, especially by hand. A lot of it is muscle memory. And patience. That's a main thing with sharpening. I don't know how many times I couldn't get something sharp, and it wasn't due to my technique. It was just due to the fact that I just didn't have the patience. And I started with too high of a grit. You want to see, for the longest time, this 1000 grit DMT stone was one of my roughest grits. I didn't have this really kind of coarse stone. And I found that when I was trying to, because everybody seems to have kind of a natural tendency when they sharpen. Now you'll want to sharpen to, say, 20 degrees, bang on every single time. But I find that most of us, when we hand sharpen, we sharpen just a little bit too laid back. And we sharpen at probably around 17 to 15 degrees. So we end up having quite nice thick bevels. And when you're doing that, you're actually taking a whole lot of steel out, and it takes a long time. And a lot of us, I feel, get a little, at least I did, I got frustrated, and I didn't complete the bevel grinding process. I ended up not apexing. And, I thought, well, I must be getting there. And you know what? And I would feel my edge after going, on both sides, and it would feel sharper, but I didn't realize how much sharper it could get in the real world. And that was, up to hair whittling sharp. I can get hair whittling sharp off a set of stones, and especially if I've got some patience. There we go. Okay, you can see here, nice edge, both the same kind of thickness on that edge. Yeah, see, I've already got the burr on that side, but I want to give this a little bit more edge. Even though I've got the same kind of burr, even though I have apex now, I want to kind of make it so it looks a little prettier. Now, when you watch like really expert sharpeners, like I think Michael Christie, he's very methodical in his sharpening. He sets his blade down every time, lifts out till he feels that angle, and then he does his stroke. Sets it down, does his stroke. And I just don't have the patience to do that, guys. I like doing the back and forth stroke, and you can see here. Maybe we'll do that a little bit more. Who else is a really, really good sharpener? Randy Johnson. Man, I watched a lot of his videos. And he's got a 5-part video using some really kind of weird Spyderco stones that are they're like a little slip stone, and they've got kind of a weird rounded shape. I haven't seen them for sale, so they must be discontinued. But he's got a 5.5 part series that tells me about sharpening that way, and that's how I listen to him. And he was just on recently. He's been gone away for a long time, and he just made a video there about a month ago, I guess, and he talked about those 5-part series of sharpening, how he thought it was really kind of a wonky dumb video or whatever. But I gotta tell you, man, if you happen to see this video there, Mr. Johnson, that video is directly result in me getting these Spyderco stones and the fact that I can sharpen a lick. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, so there we've got that bevel a little bit even. There you can see how she's starting to get. All right, so we'll get that off now. And so now this DMT is very, very short. So a lot of times when I do to compensate, well, that doesn't sound good, is I use a couple of my ceramic cases with the stones in them, and I just put my DMT on top of there, and that raises it off the table, and it helps me to be able to sharpen this. Okay, so let's just feel here. Apex, all right. And man, oh man, these DMT stones are so nice. And my solution here, just in case you're wondering, is just simple water and probably 3 squirts of Dawn dishwashing liquid, and it just seems to be a really, really nice, combination for all of my stones. And I use this water on my ceramic stones. Even though you can use these Spyderco ceramics dry, and they say, hey, no problem, use them dry, just don't use them with oil. I think a little bit of soapy water on there, it helps keep the stones clean, and it helps them last a lot longer. There we go. Not bad, not bad. Do the other side. Now, even though a DMT stone is not going to dish out, you can wear your diamonds unevenly and have a side of your diamonds that are not as coarse as the rest of them if you just keep on sharpening a certain way. So that's why lots of times I will turn my DMT, especially when I'm doing a small amount here. Wow, she's definitely chewing through this very quickly. Okay. Now, a lot of people, they will put micro bevels and stuff like that. I haven't done a lot of micro bevels right off my first sharpening. I wait for a lot of micro bevels to I do my micro beveling when I do my next sharpen. So if I sharpen something here and it's nice and sharp, what I'll do sometimes, rather than do a full sharpening, I'll just take my fine stone, and I'll just do kind of a couple of strokes on the micro bevel on just the very apex of the knife, and that brings it right back. So that's where I seem to get a lot of my micro beveling. There is the odd time when I do an actual micro bevel. And And she is, boom, sharp. There is no chips in there at all. We've got these tip, she's pointy enough to draw blood. And we've got a bevel on both sides now. So, I mean, I think this so far has been a success. Okay, so now, okay, I didn't say I was going to go much past this 1,000 grit stone. Now we'll just give that a wipe off. Now you always want to give your DMT stones a good, a good cleaning, a good wipe off. You can see here I've got some discoloration that it must have left it wet one time, and she's developed a little bit in there, and that's why you'll just see here. Let me dry this all down. So she is pretty darn sharp. Just going to give her a couple of strokes here on this. Oh. So one thing is I dislike having these stones so on the ground. I like having that little bit of room, because then that way you can, you can adjust. Don't often sharpen like this where I've got the one stone on top, because she's a little bit there. That's better. She's a little bit rocky there, not as stable, and you want to kind of have a little bit of stability here too as well. Just now, what I'm doing here is when I was first doing the reprofiling, I was putting quite a bit of weight on here. Now I'm just putting a little bit more than the knife weight on here, and what I'm doing is I'm just kind of trying to get that wire edge off, and then you can see, boy, you can see she's pretty darn sharp now. Get those right out of the way, and here, we'll give this just a little bit of strop here. I didn't bring my regular big strops, just to see if there's any sort of wire edge that's on here. But yes, see, this little Delica here is a really, really good size for everyday carry. This stainless steel here is about 4 ounces. It rockets out really, really well. So, Spidey flicks. Can't make it all the way. Let's see if we can finish it off with a Spidey flick. Now, one thing is, what you can do for me in the description, if anybody could point me towards a video where it shows these things, how these things are stuck together. I don't know if they're like clipped together, or if there's a epoxy in there, or what the scoop, if they're pinned and and then grounded down so fine that you can't see where the pins are and you have to drill them out. Just let me know if you guys have come across a video where it shows how to open up these Delicas. Okay, so all right, so now these here, so with the Delica here, with along the back edge here, what you'll want to do is you'll want to try to have that completely flat, right? And so a lot of times what people will do is they'll take the back edge and they'll just go just across. And you can hear it kind of chatter a little bit. Okay, and sometimes that'll be enough just to get those things back. Other times you do need to go now to each individual scallop, find your angle, do a couple of strokes. Okay, now find your next scallop, couple of strokes. Find your end scallop, couple of strokes. Okay, and you'll see just the end here are the ones that have got just a little bit of shine to them because that's where they've hit. So now you've got the smaller one here. Now I know Spyderco does make its own little design. So now this here is still a little bit too thick to fit inside there. So now I've got this one here, which is almost to not quite a fine edge, but it should be smaller than here, and it should be enough to get into these little scallops and give them just a little bit of a stroke, okay? So now, there, as you can see now, there you go. And with these, you don't need to do a lot, folks. I mean, there we go. And they are quite a bit sharper than they were just that last little bit. And as you can, if you could feel here, there's ever so slightly a little bit of a wire edge there. So you want to take your strop and reverse your thing and just give them backwards a little bit to get rid of your wire edge. And then we'll see if they're gone. And yowza, she's sharp all the way across. Let's do a little bit of a paper cut test here. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so we've got just some good old copy paper here, and let's just see how we did. There. It's a little bit ragged. But there's no chip in there, and let's just have a look, see if we can. There. And now, one thing too is if you want to find out if there is maybe some chips left, your fingernail, just the tip of your fingernail, run it along the edge, and you can feel that there's nothing there, nothing snagging whatsoever. And she is pretty darn sharp. So it might be a little bit of a hang up there, and once I get my good strop, I'll finish this thing off with a really couple of good stropping session just to finish her off. And Bob's your uncle. This VG10 is really easy to sharpen compared to a lot of the steels that's out there. And I guess, it doesn't have the edge retention of, a super steel. But I just wanted to kind of have this size of knife, this Delica stainless steel in my pocket. I wanted to check it out and find out what she's going to be like. So stay tuned for the review on this. Oh, look at that. She's folded right over. There, she's doing the old half moons, so she's damn sharp. So, hopefully this helps somebody out. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Now, if you like what you saw, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up as well as subscribe. Help me spread my voice. Now, we are not out of the woods yet with a good old pandemic, so please listen to the experts that are out there. Please keep your shiny side up, your stick on the ice. This is the Big Canucker saying adios.